In terms of a lineup, I think you got to keep things simple, right? I think that's where you actually have a benefit because you're not trying to do too much as a coach. So all the players will understand, or should have some familiarity if you just say, okay, we're gonna do 4-4-2, four defenders, four midfielders, and two strikers, or you could say, okay, we're gonna do 4-3-3, four defenders, three midfielders, kind of two wide, two low. So that'd be two kind of low attackers, and then one that's almost very high. So, but and in 8 sessions, I mean, 14 years old all star team. Yeah, they should be able to keep the ball well. So the only thing you got to remind them is when you're attacking, spread out, open up passing lanes, and opening up dribbling lanes. When you're defending, compress towards your own goal, close passing lanes, close defending lanes, and so that you can defend as a team, right? Um, and okay, so substitutions is where you can make or break your team success. So let's say you have 18 players on your roster, and for math's sake, let's say and let's say you only have one goalkeeper just to make things easier. So if this is an all-star game, you got to get all these kids in there. So let's say you have 11 players on the field. So you have 10 field players, right? 10 field players. If you've got 8 people on the bench, you want to pull so halfway through the first half, put your every single player in the whole bench. So take 8 players out and go from the the highest players on the field down to the lowest. So you take out all your forwards, and then you take out however many midfielders you need, and then take out um right, I said 8. So then maybe take out a left back or a right back, and ideally you want to leave a captain on for the whole game, or two captains on for the whole game. So you could make both your central defenders your captains if they're natural leaders, or just leave whoever is the natural leader out on the field, right? But I'm just trying to create a scenario in your head. But the reason the time at which you want to sub is important, it's relevant. So you want to sub halfway through the first half, and then you leave those same subs in, the subs that got subbed in, you leave them in for the start of the second half. And then at the halfway through the second half, you replace all the subs with the players. Then you put the players who started the game. Those players are going to finish the game, and you should let your team know that this is going to happen the way it's going to happen even before the game starts, so they have a game plan. Because a lot of times what coaches will do, they'll say Tommy, Billy, and Ricky warm up, and then for whatever reason they're only going to put Ricky in, and then Tommy and Billy are like what's going on, coach? Like, you told me to warm up, I'm warmed up, like how come I'm not in there? So it's almost like the coach who cried wolf. Um and and it creates a nice flow, right? You get a lot of bang for your buck, a lot of bang for your buck from your team, because forwards, if they don't score in the first half of the first half, they're not worried about it because they know they're going to go in the second half of the second half. So you get great flow of energy. It's you don't have sporadic subbing. Sometimes I was witness to a coach who would literally take out a player, and he'd put that same player back in, and it was like I just couldn't wrap my mind around why he did that. Anyway, so this way of subbing, it's super. There's just a lot of things going on, and it checks a lot of boxes that you. It's just super efficient and effective. So that's what I suggest in terms of subbing. Um, you want to get the team in shade. If this is a warm area, you want to keep your bench cool. If it's a cold day, you want to keep everyone warm, and that might and it sounds trivial, but it actually adds up, right? So so just little things like that. Um, there's so much literature that sitting is just so bad for players. So I would just always make my team stand up on the bench, and or just stay juggling, right? Think about it. If this is an all-star game with all-star players, then they should be doing all-star things, which means I'd have that whole bench juggling every single second that they're not playing. It's like most games you get a significantly less number of touches you do than you would in a practice. So for that reason, you want to get a lot of touches. Ideally, you want to help, like, they should everyone on the bench should be standing or juggling or using a kick trainer or just moving or something, like just having like passing games with each other. You want them to be warmed up. You don't necessarily need them to watch what's going on in the game. It's good to be close by in proximity so they're ready if someone gets hurt or something. But I'd rather have my players warmed up in a state of deep relaxation than tuned into the game and just sitting on their butts, like sitting on their butts in like poor postural positions. But so that's just something to think about. Besides that, there's really nothing to it. I like making three players as captains instead of two, just because if one captain gets hurt, you replace that captain with someone else, just so you have kind of like three. Something about the Trinity just makes sense in my mind. So giving three, so finding captain's armbands for for three players. Um, Something Doug Nevins used to do that was super effective and kind of intimidating to the other team is right before the game would start, he would set up two lines of cones. Each line had three cones total, and they were very close together. So and he did this right. I was very close to the other team's bench, and right before the game, it's kind of a little bit quietish. So he would basically have us do a little slalom through some cones, like slalom, and then quick sprint, like 5 steps, and then he'd be standing, facing his players running towards him, and each time the players went through the slalom and then did a quick 5 yard sprint, he would give them high fives, and he'd say, right, like he'd say yes, like yes Andrew, yes Mark, yes Ryan, yes Billy, and he'd be high five them, so you could start to feel this intensity and getting all the players kind of warmed up, and it was something that the other team would watch, and it was almost like they would watch and say, oh, I wish we did that. Like, it was almost like you could see that they were jealous of how much energy we were creating within our team before the game got started. And the more they were watching us, what we were doing, the less they were thinking about what they were doing. So it was super effective warm up strategy that translated into, we won almost every single game. The only game we lost was in regionals to FC Delco. I mean, we were ranked, I shit you not, one in the country at 18 years old. So we were no joke. All the whole team got full rides. I'm playing college ball. Cintron was playing on the Puerto Rican national team. He scored against Spain. Right. So I'm talking high level players. Hunter Gorski turned pro. Kyle McCarthy is now coaching for Villanova. Like, so there's a lot of good players on that team. Everyone, that whole team was an all-star team. So it's very relatable. For warm up for games, same thing. You just do warm up. So have the team get themselves warmed up, and then possession, then finishing on goal, and then you do that little agility thing through the cones, and then everyone's high fiving, 4-4-2 or 4-3-3, and then just tell them how have fun, play hard. It's like you don't need to do much for them to have a great time, and I think as long as your practices are super fun, super intense, right? You gotta raise their as if you and you gotta bring. You don't gotta stop play a lot. You gotta be the most energetic person